Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and you were watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about Space Marine chapters as we get into a Renegade chapter, the Relictors. Now, just as a recap, a Renegade chapter is a chapter that has turned away from the Imperium. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are chaotic, though. So keep that in mind. With that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Relictors. The Relictors are a Renegade Space Marine chapter that was one of the 20 chapters of Astarte Praeses, thought to have been created after the Horus Heresy, specifically to guard the threatened sectors of Imperial space surrounding the Eye of Terror. What sets this Renegade chapter aside is that their primary goal was to seek and collect warp-tainted relics, yet they remain loyal to the Emperor of Mankind's mission to destroy all chaos. They were originally known as the Fire Claws. Imperial records of events during their founding are notoriously ambiguous and difficult to uncover. One transcription of the Mythos Angelica Mortis validates the traitor chapter's origin during the Age of Apostasy. This ancient chapter was based out of the Fortress Monastery on an ancient Remilius-class starfort in geostationary orbit around the world of Torvus Minoris. It was called Neutra by its inhabitants, and the chapter served as part of the Imperium's defenses against the forces of chaos for over 5 standard millennia. The Fireclaws were listed in Imperial records on many occasions, and had taken part in many glorious victories. Not least amongst these conflicts were the purging of the cult of the Inner Eye, and the first siege of Calculus. In the middle of the 9th century of the 41st millennium, the Emperor's Tarot revealed the existence of a badly damaged space hulk emerging from the warp near the Forge World of Styges in the Segmentum Obscurus, and the Fireclaws mobilized to intercept it. The hulk, codified by the Imperium as the Captor of Sin, contained a warband of Chaos Space Marines led by a champion of Tzeentch, known as the Excoriator. The Fireclaw strike cruisers crippled the vessel as it entered the Styges system, and Terminator assault squads, led by Librarian Decario and the shadowy figure of Inquisitor Demarc, stormed the vessel. Realizing that they were doomed, the Renegades made a stand in the cavern-sized engine room, where furious battle was joined by Decario and Demarc, who fought the Excoriator. The champion was a mighty warrior, and carried a weapon forged in the heart of the Eye of Terror, a terrible demon sword with the essence of a greater demon bound within its unearthly steel. The Inquisitor hacked at the champion with his power axe, but the unnatural armor of the Excoriator was impervious to his blows. The Chaos Champion retaliated, his demon weapon easily cutting through Demarc's armor and grievously wounding him. With another strike, the Excoriator shattered Decario's force sword and laid open his Terminator armor. Decario staggered, but struck back with his power fist, ripping the Chaos Champion's sword arm from his socket with a fountain of blood. Even mortally wounded and unarmed, the champion fought with hideous ferociousness, smashing the Librarian to the ground and slaughtering 4 Terminators. Decario muttered a prayer to the Emperor, reached for the nearest weapon at hand, and struck at the champion. The Excoriator's hand was chopped from his shoulder, and Decario realized he had picked up the demon sword, killing the champion with his own chaotic weapon. Decario was filled with a sense of utter purpose as he wielded the Chaos Sword and instinctively felt that this was a weapon that could be turned against the forces of chaos. The wounded Demarc cautioned the Librarian to put the weapon down, but only he was trained in the use of such an artifact. The Librarian handed the Inquisitor the weapon, and the Space Marines returned to their ship, leaving behind the Adeptus Mechanicus surveying teams to search the hulk for any archaeotech. Demarc explained that he also believed that such weapons could be used to fight chaos, and should not be destroyed as was standard policy in the Imperium. With the aid of Decario, he was able to convince the Fireclaw's chapter master, and under Decario's guidance, the Fireclaws embarked on a crusade to explore the worlds around the Eye of Terror and uncover more such chaos relics. Over the decades that followed, many such artifacts were discovered, and the Fireclaw's chapter became known instead as the Relictors. It was only a matter of time before others discovered the Relictors' practice of using chaotic weapons in battle. A cell of Puritan Inquisitors, backed by a fleet of no less than 4 chapters of Space Marines and an Emperor-class battleship, descended upon the Relictors' Fortress Monastery. They demanded to hand over Demarc and all recovered chaos weaponry, or be destroyed. Faced with destruction, the chapter had no option but to obey. As penance for dealing with heretical weaponry, the chapter was dispatched on a century-long penitent crusade against all foes of the Emperor, to atone for their impurity. Demarque was taken by the Inquisition and executed by the Ordo Hereticus as a heretic. As part of their penance crusade, the entire Relictor chapter, all 10 companies, were deployed to the hive world of Armageddon during the Third War of Armageddon, in the world's equatorial jungles, to fight the raiding tribes of Pharaoh orcs. However, the chapter was publicly criticized during this campaign, as the majority of its battle brothers concentrated their efforts in the region surrounding the Foul Pyramid, known as Angron's Monolith, despite repeated requests for assistance elsewhere. The area surrounding the monolith had been declared purgatus, and was now twisted and diseased, warped by the presence of such an evil creation. Pharaoh orcs were drawn to the monolith, and there were many nests of these creatures hidden there. Throughout the conflict in the jungle, the environment surrounding Angron's monolith was a source of rumors and speculations. Babbling soldiers, staggering incoherent from the jungle, claimed that the pyramid had altered its orientation and pulsated with inner life. While such stories were clearly the figments of unhinged minds, several reports of mysterious beings sheathed in metal skin had coincided with the last known location of squads listed as missing in action. Imperial astropaths had even detected strange disturbances in the warp centered around the monolith, and an increased buildup of psychic energy within it. Only the Relictors displayed a willingness to fight in these sectors. The chapter later left Armageddon, after the chapter's librarians had a vision of a lidless eye weeping blood. The Relictors was the first chapter to withdraw from the conflict. Imperial Navy picket ships in orbit challenged them, and a violent confrontation between supposed allies was only narrowly averted when Commander Dante ordered the picket ships to stand down and allow the Relictor ships to rendezvous with their fleet in their star fort. The next time the Relictors were seen was 1 month later, when they arrived on an orbital shipyard of Bellis Corona and demanded a complete resupply of their entire fleet. After some tense altercations with the Oficio Departamento Minitorum bureaucrats, the chapter's demands were accepted and their ships resupplied. With no further explanation, the chapter left in the direction of the Cadian Gate. The Relictors arrived at the Cadian Gate mere solar days before the first signs of Abaddon's imminent attack were seen. The Relictors contributed all 10 of their companies to the fight against the forces of chaos during the 13th Black Crusade. Just like on Armageddon, the Relictors refused to submit themselves to the authority of any other, incurring the wrath of the Great Wolf, Logan Grimnar, of the Space Wolves chapter. During this time, the Relictors participated in an attack against a warband of Wordbearer Traitor Legion on the world of Subiaco Diablo, during which an inquisitorial task force disappeared under suspicious circumstances. They were next seen in the Cadian sector, where they clashed with the Night Lord force at Exultra Minor, before becoming embroiled in a suppression action against Eldar raiders of Xerxia. The chapter then appeared near Cadia itself, but refused to respond to instructions from Logan Grimnar to reinforce the fortress world, instead making straight to the warp conduit and departing to the agri world of Fremos. Exactly what occurred on Fremos is a matter of some doubt, but a pack of wolf scouts dispatched by Logan Grimnar trekked the Relictors to the remote Diomedes archive, where the chapter appeared to have repulsed the Chaos attack before turning upon the archive's defenders. None of the defenders were reported to have survived the assault, but Grimnar's men recovered partial vidlock that suggested the Relictors' objective was the sealed stasis vault at the heart of the mountaintop fastness. The contents of this vault were known to but a handful of adepts in the Imperium, most of whom reside on Terra, as a result of their use of chaotic artifacts to secure victory during the 13th Black Crusade. The Relictors ultimately came into conflict with the Inquisition, and the High Lords of Terra declared that they were excommunicate traitorous. After a devastating battle with the Grey Knights at the direction of the Inquisition, the surviving Relictors were forced to flee into the Eye of Terror to seek sanctuary. Their current fate remains unknown to the Imperium. And those were 40 facts on the Relictors. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The reason I wanted to create this video is because you guys have been asking on our Greater War episodes if there is a Space Marine chapter that has turned against the Imperium but not necessarily turned to chaos. The Relictors, I think, fits the role that you guys have been asking about, because you could make the argument that there are certain traitor legions and even traitor warbands that are supposedly Chaos Space Marines, but they're not really Chaos Space Marines. I'm thinking about like the Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion never has any real mutations. They're still pretty much Space Marines. Are just bad Space Marines. So they look the same, and they're not devoted to one god, one Chaos god. They're kind of seen working alongside a bunch of other gods, or the Space Marines of other gods, but not necessarily. They themselves are not necessarily like Chaos corrupted, like the Night Lords or anything like that. But the Relictors, I think, fit the role more specifically of what you guys are asking. Basically, just a Space Marine chapter that's kind of like, well, we're going to do our own thing. Forget the Imperium, forget the High Lords of Terra. We are going to just pursue whatever interests us. And I guess you can also make the argument that like Space Wolves and Black Templars are kind of the same, because they adhere to something that the rest of the Space Marines definitely don't adhere to. They push away the Codex Astartes, and like the beliefs of the Black Templars are just completely different. They're more aligned to the Imperial Creed than the actual Space Marines' beliefs, that the Emperor is not actually divine. So I guess you can make that argument that the Relictors are kind of like that, but they do not answer to the High Lords of Terra. The Space Wolves, the Black Templars, they don't necessarily have direct connection with the High Lords of Terra, but they themselves also still want to appease the Imperial hierarchy, I guess you could say. I hope this helps answer a lot of the questions that we have been getting. I hope that if you create a Space Marine chapter that's separate from the hierarchy of the Imperium, this serves as inspiration for you to create your own lore. Any questions, just comment down below. I will probably come back to this chapter just because there's way more lore that I did not cover. You can jump on over to the wiki page, link down in the description. There is a lot on this chapter, specifically, of course, the relics that they have collected and that they have used. So we might do a video specifically on the relics. I might just redo the entire video because this is one of those chapters that just has so much information that on the first try is not enough. But yeah, I hope this helps. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to visit our Patreon. A simple $1 a month helps us create more videos for you guys. If you can't support us on Patreon, we understand. Simply by liking, commenting, and sharing, it helps out the channel. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Oh, if you could put my